So a very good afternoon to everyone, all you esteemed colleagues representing EIF countries, donors, agencies, and partners. I'm very happy to welcome you to this fourth session of the EIF Global Forum. My name is Anna Vitie. I'm the DPR, the Deputy Permanent Representative of Finland to the WTO and other economic organizations here in Geneva. And I have the great pleasure and honor to moderate this session. And this particular session is about learning from EIF experiences promoting inclusive and sustainable trade. Just a few words of background to introduce the session. Promoting issues such as gender, youth, and persons with disabilities inclusion, as well as environmentally sustainable trade. These are thankfully increasingly embedded into Aid for Trade project design. And I note that in recent years, EIF has also continued to increase its focus on women's economic empowerment, both through projects under the EIF Empower Women Power Trade Initiative, as well as increased mainstreaming of gender priorities into all programming, to the extent that actually currently 61% of all EIF beneficiaries are women. Just to mention one aspect of inclusivity as well. Inclusive Trade Initiative have quite a lot focused on strengthening the participation of women and young people in trade opportunities. But I would like to mention the inclusion of persons with disabilities, which is also crucial, but only starting to attract awareness. And I'd like to take this opportunity to mention that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland has commissioned a study to look at this issue, to increase knowledge and awareness of the ways in which international trade affects the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities. So the studies will be launched, or the full report will be available in October, but if you're interested in this very new emerging topic, I have left a couple of copies of a policy brief based on the study over there by the door. The other topic of today's fourth session is sustainable trade. And we all know that the LDCs are disproportionately affected by the effects of environmental challenges, including climate change. And this can impact trade-related industries significantly, such as agriculture and tourism. And this aspect, this environmental sustainability and climate resilience, is increasingly evident in EIF programming. And the EIF uses the latest research and insights and knowledge to inform its work. In recent EIF projects, there have been climate-related dialogues, and they have ensured that climate financing has been informed by trade, as well as helped address environmental challenges affecting ecotourism, fisheries, and, for example, honey production. So I'm very much looking forward today to hearing tangible and concrete examples and experiences directly from the countries and partners. And we are very lucky to have a distinguished panel of speakers who will be sharing some of their experiences on these issues, including what has worked well, but even more importantly, what are some of the challenges and bottlenecks and how those could be addressed in the future. So now I will ask a couple of questions to each of our speakers, and then I will open the floor to engage with the audience. We have quite limited time, so I would kindly ask the speakers to be brief and stick to the 7 minutes or so in their interventions. And then later on, when we open the floor for the audience also, I would encourage you to ask questions and share some of your own experiences and challenges that you have faced when it comes to inclusivity and sustainable trade. So let me first turn to our first speaker, Permanent Secretary Mr. Lamin Damfa of the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment in the Gambia. It's great to have you here on our panel. EIF has support to Gambia is totaling more than 7.6 million. And this comprises diagnostic trade analysis, institutional capacity building support, trade mainstreaming, digital economy assessment, sustainability support, and productive capacity development in agriculture and trade facilitation. And Gambia has been named a couple of years ago as one of the world's climate resilience leaders for its ambitious and decisive strategy for tackling the impacts of rising sea levels and temperatures of soil degradation. It's also one of the only three LDCs who participate in the current structured discussion at the WTO on trade and environmental sustainability. And so Gambia has pioneered trade and climate change nexus initiatives and received EIF support for that. And I understand that this currently is strengthening the your country's ability to access trade-related climate finance. So, Permanent Secretary Damfa, could you please describe how you see the Gambia being impacted by climate change, and what has your ministry done in response with the EIF support? And also, what kind of lessons will you take forward?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. And I think you could see the pictures displayed. You know, this shows how serious climate change is affecting lives and livelihood in the Gambia. And this is why we thought it is important that to have a paradigm shift in trade discussions, not only focus on market, but also look at how environment, could impact on trade development in developing countries. It is with a great pleasure and honor that I represent the government of the Gambia and participate in this August gathering. I sincerely thank you, our partner, and the EIF for the invitation and the warm welcome accorded to my delegation. Let me start by giving a brief account of the climate change context of the Gambia. We're looking at climate change in a long term, how it's going to affect the Gambia. Because since the 1950s, minimum temperature across the Gambia have increased steadily at the rate of 0.4 Celsius and to 0.67 Celsius per decade. According to our third national communication, the Gambia is expected to be hotter and drier by 2100, with temperature rising from about 28 Celsius in 2000 to about 31 Celsius by 2100. The projected increase in annual average temperature across the length and breadth of the Gambia shows that Banjul will register a plus 1.5 Celsius increase, and the Upper River region will register plus 2 degrees Celsius during the period 2030 to 2070. About 35% decrease in the average rainfall of the Gambia has been realized in the past 5 decades. Importantly, the crop growing wet season rainfall is predicted to decrease, coupled with an increase in the occurrence of heavy rain events and floods. The predictions for changes in annual precipitations range from 0.23% to plus 21% by 2090. Location-specific project changes in the future precipitations shows that by 2030, Greater Banjul area and West Coast region will register a rainfall decrease of 6%. North Bank region and Lower River regions will register a decrease of 8%, and Central River region and the Upper River region will register 11% decrease during the period 2030 to 2070. Adverse impact in agriculture, fisheries, forestry, tourism, construction, manufacturing, transportation, and real estate are amplified and or accelerated by losses in productivity of land resources, water, nutrients, and sediment fluxes. The saline intrusions as well as flooding will also affect the arable lands. It is estimated that 1 meter rise in sea level would inundate 60% of mangrove mangrove forests, 33% of swamp area, and 20% of rice growing areas, assuming no protective measures are taken. In addition, the saline water would infiltrate groundwater aquifers, which lies at depth of between 5 to 50 meters. This was a study done by Belfort. Ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me that these predictions are real threats to agriculture, food security, and trade in countries in the future, those illustrating the imminent danger of climate change on human livelihood. Between 2018 to 2021, government disposed $190 million from its domestic budget, and about 10% of that, 19.55 million was spent on climate change adaptation. Also, 27 close and ongoing projects from international climate finance up to 2022 carried a budget of about $1.1 billion. About 78% of these projects are adaptation focused, 15% on mitigation focus, and 7% are cross-cutting. Unfortunately, all these projects had very little focus on trade. The EIF has been the main donor of trade-related interventions in the Gambia. It is my pleasure on behalf of the government of the Gambia to share some of the results and impact of EIF programs at the national level, particularly in environmental sustainability, and provide some lessons learned. The EIF programs aims to enhance the capacity of the Gambia to engage and maximize trade for national development. This requires the building of the institutional and human capacities of the key drivers of trade in the country as a means of mainstreaming trade in the national development process. EIF has been supporting the Gambia since 2007 to address its supply side constraint. Since then, the Gambia has benefited from almost 10 EIF-funded projects, reaching an amount slightly above $7 million. The support provided have been in areas of diagnostic trade integration study, institutional capacity building, trade facilitation and mainstreaming, trade and digital economy assessment, sea trade and COVID-19 recovery in partnership with ITC, sustainability support and productive capacity development in agriculture and fisheries subsector. Some achievements include 2013 DTI study at the Kakok complex at the airport. This was designed to support export of horticultural products. The e-trade assessment, mainstreaming trade in the national new green recovery development program, and the Jokalante platform, among others. Some of these projects have closed while others are on the verge of being closed, but their results and impact remain visible at the national level. The big challenge confronting us now is climate change. It has become a reality that it cannot be ignored. According to some studies, climate change is projected to negatively impact on the 4 pillars of food security. That's availability, access, utilization, and stability. These amplify the global development challenges, in particular for least developed countries. The government of the Gambia in 2021 formulated a national determination contribution 2 as part of the Gambia's ratification of the Paris Agreement. Since the government continued to be committed to consolidate its strong ambition and commitment to climate change by integrating the identified mitigation measures into national planning process. This therefore necessitates collective solutions and multilateral cooperation. In this context, trade and trade-related policies can and must be part of the policy option for achieving shared climate goals at the depth and speed required by the climate stakeholders. This is in line with one of the critical enablers of the National Development Plan 2018 to 2022 and the recent Green Recovery Focused National Development Plan 2023 to 2028. In 2021, the country was named as one of the world climate resilient leaders for its ambitious and desired strategy for tackling the impact of rising sea levels, temperature, and soil degradation. In early 2023, it is also one three least developed countries participating in current WTO trade and environmental sustainability structure discussions. In 2022, the Ministry of Trade, with support from the GCF Ecosystem-Based Adaptation Project, integrated climate change and ecosystem-based adaptation approaches into the trade and entrepreneurship policies of the ministry. This process was also taken forward to the development of the Green Recovery-Focused National Development Plan. And this integration process will lead to mainstreaming and enhancement of trade and investment opportunities in trade and trade-related sectors associated with efforts of having a green economy, and this will be pursued. However, as one of the challenges facing the Gambia is using its trade policy and aid for trade resources to build its climate resilient trade development capacity through clean value chain development. This is principally due to limited knowledge in the public and private domain for accessing trade-related climate change financing. In September 2022 and June 2023, the government of the Gambia, in partnership with the EIF, organized a high-level public and private sector dialogues, respectively, on accessing climate change financing as part of its activities of the EIF post-SSP project under the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment. The workshop enhanced the capacity of the public and private sector officials on the processes and procedure of accessing global climate change funds as the Green Climate Fund, the Global Environmental Facility, the Adaptation Fund, and the Climate Investment Fund. The Gambia's ambition, the Gambia's ambition to pioneer and climate change Nexus initiative with EIF support is strengthening the country's ability to access trade-related climate finance. The dialogue brought together the Trade and Environment and Climate Change Ministry, as well as the private sector to better coordinate trade-related climate change issues and develop climate financing proposals, as well as inform 2024 to 2030 national trade policy updates with a green focus. These are some of the efforts that the Gambia has been making, in trying to bring the climate change to the fore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Damfa, for your insights. It has been very interesting to hear about the challenges you face and related to climate change and how you cooperate with EIF and some of the concrete achievements. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to turn to Mr. Jan Duval, Chief of Trade Policy and Facilitation at United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, so UNESCAP. In the previous intervention, the question of digital transformation was also touched upon, and this definitely has become a top priority also in economies of the Asia-Pacific region, including in the LDCs. Digitally enabled transactions of trade in goods and services, including the application of emerging technologies, really have the potential to cut trade costs and make participation in trade and cross-border e-commerce more inclusive and provide more opportunities for those who were not well catered through conventional mechanisms. I've been informed that an EIF-funded project implemented by UNESCAP has strengthened the capacity of the targeted LDCs in facilitating cross-border paperless trade for sustainable development, utilizing emerging technologies. So, Mr. Duval, could you please describe the trade gains of this work on paperless trade and its environmental angle in particular, and where do you see the lessons arising? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Very happy to be here. We have a long-standing collaboration with EIF Secretariat, an EIF program on paperless trade and trade digitalization. I think we started with projects in this area with for targeted to Asian LDCs in 2018-19, and so this has been a continuous process since then. Cambodia, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and Timor-Leste have benefited, and a wider, some other projects also have benefited a wider set of countries. And so why are we talking about trade digitalization in this session, right? Because it's about inclusive and sustainable, right? I think it's because trade digitalization has great potential to address all three pillars of the sustainable development agenda, right? On the economic pillar sides, you've got important trade cost reduction that can be associated with implementing trade digitalization and what we call cross-border paperless trade. On the social side, certainly if you increase transparency and then you make it easier, you make it easier to trade, then you've got more transparent and inclusive trade as a de facto benefit. And also there is the environmental pillar link. There is CO2 emission savings that can be gained from implementing cross-border paperless trade. Actually, we've done some work at ESCAP estimating the potential gains from that. At the global level, what we found using quite detailed studies is that if you go from the existing paper-heavy trade procedures to paperless trade procedures, you could cut CO2 emissions by something like the equivalent of 1 billion trees planted. This is at the global level, right? And so I think that's what makes trade digitalization very important when we talk about inclusive and sustainable development. The countries, as you can see on this graph, the countries, the LDCs, have made progress on trade facilitation and paperless trade implementation. So we've just released, in collaboration with UNCTAD and all the UN regional commissions, new data 2023 on this in this area. You can see that LDCs made progress along with actually all the other regions and group of countries, but the progress is very significant for LDCs between 21 and 2023. So that's good news. In fact, I mean, I think Cambodia has been making a lot of progress. Bangladesh has been making a progress. Also, Timor-Leste has been making a progress. You know, I'm talking about some of the countries I'm very familiar with. And so the work that was done with EIF supported the development of action plans, mainly in several Asian LDCs, as well as more recently feasibility studies for actually exchanging data across border using advanced technologies. So one of the outcome of the work is really that goes beyond the LDCs, in fact, because the assessment methodologies developed both on the legal and technical side have been used in over 15 countries now in Asia and the Pacific and beyond. In fact, it's being used in Mexico. Also, some of the work that was generated in collaboration with EIF for LDCs initially. And there is a publication of a toolkit for cross-border paperless trade by WTO, UNCITRAL, and ESCAP, I think took place last year. And again, this is very much supported with some of the work done by EIF. So what are lessons learned from the projects? The first one, I would say, is trade digitalization is a long-term endeavor with political and institutional support really key to successful implementation. You can't make this happen overnight, in particular in LDCs. And so you need dedicated agreement, especially if you want to do cross-border paperless trade, which is electronic exchange of data and documents across borders between countries. So you need agreements in place. And in ESCAP, the countries have negotiated something called the Framework Agreement on Facilitation of Cross-Border Paperless Trade in Asia and the Pacific, which is actually a full-fledged United Nations treaty dedicated to cross-border paperless trade facilitation. And it's very inclusive in the sense that, for example, we have Bangladesh is a parties to it. And you also have Republic of Korea, which is arguably one of the world leaders in paperless trade, who is also a party to it. And so it's not really trying to exclude anyone, but really to bring everyone together. Second lesson learned would be that continued support is needed to automate for automation and for human resource development in trade control agencies. And here, side point is that it should not only be customs, because a lot of the aid and support goes to customs agencies, and in fact, customs is where they are already the most capable. So the other government agencies should be the one receiving a lot of support, but it's difficult often to get it to them. The other point in relation to capacity building is maybe that they need to be capacity building also in new technologies, even in LDCs. I mean, artificial intelligence, blockchain, I don't like to talk about blockchain, but anyway, blockchain, artificial intelligence, all those kind of new things. It's important that capacity be built also in LDCs and awareness be built because they're becoming cheaper and to access, right? Artificial intelligence in particular is becoming quite easily accessible. And there is really potential, in particular for AI, to potentially fill some of the human resource gaps actually in some of those countries, right? The third point, sorry, I don't want to be too long, so you let me know if I'm too long. The third lessons learned is that so inclusiveness of digital trade, of trade digitalization, right, is there, but is really not automatic, right? So there's really it's really necessary that special measures need to be included in the trade digitalization program or digital trade facilitation program. For example, yes, everybody should establish an electronic single window system, right? But how do you access the single window, right? So additional facilities are necessary for SMEs and for small traders to actually still be able to access those kind of very advanced trade facilitation measures. And the survey, the global survey on digital and sustainable trade facilitation actually has a separate component on trade facilitation for women, trade facilitation for SMEs, trade facilitation for the agricultural sector. So if you go to the website, we cover 160 countries, I think. You can take a look and see what is there. And the fourth point is also goes to the environmental benefits. The environmental benefits of trade digitalization are real. They've been measured to some extent. So I know Vanuatu, in Vanuatu single window, for example, we found out that implementation of the single window in Vanuatu did decrease CO2 emissions. And so, but there is really a need to better track and estimate the benefits, the environmental benefits, the CO2 emission reduction benefits from trade facilitation measures. And so ESCAP and UNCTAD actually collaborating on putting together a project dedicated to this, hopefully to be implemented soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duval, for your response and explaining to us why trade digitalization is important to sustainable development and how you've worked together with the EIF and some of the outcomes and lessons learned. Very useful. Thank you. And our next speaker will be the EIF NIU coordinator from Lesotho, Mr. Fera Lepati. According to the World Bank's recent climate risk profile, Lesotho has a high degree of risk to natural hazards, including floods, drought, frost, strong winds, and heavy snowfall. And from what I've understood, the EIF has supported the introduction of greenhouse farming technology to smallholder horticultural farmers. And with the technical support by the ITC, has helped the government of Lesotho to establish its first major market center for fresh fruits and vegetables in the capital. So my question to you, Mr. Lepati, is can you please describe the impact climate change is having on trade in Lesotho, and what are some of the measures your government has taken to address this with support from EIF and other development partners? And what do you see are the lessons of the recent years, and where can Lesotho be supported going forward? Mr. Lepati, you have the floor. It's a pleasure to have you here with us virtually connected from Maseru.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Good afternoon to everyone. Madam Moderator, allow me, before responding to our questions, to present a brief background about EIF support in Lesotho. Lesotho has benefited from EIF funding totaling approximately $4.7 million US from 2010, supporting the full suite of EIF project support windows. Let me just highlight a few of the support that has been given by EIF in Lesotho. The Diagnostic Trade Integration Study update was completed in 2012 with technical assistance from the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. Institutional capacity building of EIF in-country coordinating arrangements and trade mainstreaming through Tier 1 project was undertaken. Development of Tier 2 project, horticultural productivity and trade development, was undertaken. The project supported small-scale horticultural farmers with greenhouse technology to produce high-value fruits and vegetables in a protected environment throughout the planting season. A market center was established whereby farmers can sell their produce. An e-trade readiness assessment was undertaken with technical support of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD. A national trade strategy was formulated with technical assistance by the ITC. The strategy provides a prioritized action plan with specific activities to support exporting micro, small, and medium enterprises at a national level in 3 sectors, namely horticulture, textiles, and apparel, and light industries. Funding of the sustainability support project implemented by the Lesotho UNDP office as the main implementing entity was done. The SSP helped to ensure that previous EIF supported activities and programs are being mainstreamed into national plans and strategies. Now, responding to your question, Madam Moderator, Lesotho, like all countries in the world, is prone to a number of key environmental stresses, whereby we are experiencing an increase in the frequency and intensity of extreme climate events, particularly droughts, heavy rain, and snowfall events, hailstorms at unusual times. These extreme conditions are hindering national development, disrupting critical public services, and detrimentally affecting rural livelihoods. Owing to Lesotho's geographical position and geophysical features that are characterized by mainly mountainous terrain, coupled by poor economic situation, Lesotho is in a critical state of vulnerability to climate change. Under climate change conditions, the aforementioned stresses get more pronounced and hence undermine sustainable development efforts. However, through the support by the EIF greenhouse technology, farmers have been helped to adapt to changing climate conditions, in particular through the use of sheltered production, using greenhouses and hail nets to extend the growing season and protect produce from extreme weather. This is in line with the EIF and ITC supported national trade strategy of Lesotho, which focuses on diversifying the export basket. Result, e.g., 150 greenhouses and hail nets were distributed to horticulturalists, along with training and market linkage support. This has led to more efficient water and fertilizer use and extended growing season and protection from extreme weather. The government of Lesotho recognizes the need to implement adaptation initiatives to manage the threat of climate change. In this context, the National Adaptation Plan process was officially launched in October 2015 with a 2-day multi-stakeholder workshop. In addition, a national adaptation program of action and a national climate change policy have been developed for Lesotho to facilitate improved adaptation planning and implementation. However, several barriers have impeded progress to date, including one, institutional capacity at national and district levels to implement and monitor the national program of action. Coordination and knowledge sharing between relevant stakeholders has been a problem as well. Information available to inform adaptation planning and decision-making. Integration of climate change issues into policies and development plans and adaptation funding. Going forward, the government of Lesotho needs assistance to advance national action plan process. These include institutional capacity and stakeholder engagement processes for adaptation planning in Lesotho, climate change information generation, analysis, and dissemination, national capacity for mainstreaming climate change adaptation into policies, plans, and strategies, enabling environment for financing of the national action process, and national capacity for monitoring and reporting on the national action process. Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lepati, for joining us and for describing the conditions and challenges of small-scale horticultural farmers in Lesotho and how you have worked together with EIF and what kind of support is needed going forward. I now turn to our next speakers to delve into the area of women's economic empowerment in particular. First, we have Sylvia Poll, head of the Digital Society Division in the Telecommunication Development Bureau of the International Telecommunication Union, ITU. I've understood that the joint EIF and ITU project has supported over 1,660 young women in Burundi, Ethiopia, and Haiti to expand their knowledge on how to use technology and digital skills to build online marketplaces and participate in the digital economy. Many of them have participated in international trade fairs using the skills obtained for networking and business contracts. And the project has also led to country assessments on mainstreaming gender into digital policies. So, Ms. Poll, could you please share with us some of the challenges facing women in LDCs when it comes to digital economic empowerment? And also, could you please describe some of the trade gains you've seen through the recent initiative with EIF, as well as what we have learned about taking this forward? And I'd also like to ask if you could briefly describe how the disability inclusion angle is incorporated into the project. That would be very interesting. So, Ms. Poll, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and very excited to be here on behalf of all my colleagues in ITU who have been working tirelessly in the last few years on this project. And despite having to implement it through the pandemic, I think if we really think about it, the collaboration between EIF and ITU has been amazing because we have had great successes. And I went through the last report, and I saw many indicators surpassing what was expected in normal circumstances. And this project started its implementation during the pandemic. So a big congratulations to the whole team, both at the EIF and ITU. And yes, I'm the head of the Digital Society Division in the ITU, and we work as a team to ensure not only in the BDT and the development sector, but across the whole ITU, and also encouraging across the whole UN that we need to have inclusive digital societies for everyone. Everyone means everyone, everywhere. and it needs to benefit from the power of digital to enable social development and economic growth. In particular, in the ITU, we have initiative projects and solutions that target 6 specific target groups. We work with women and girls. In this case, is what we've been doing with the EIF project. We work with youth. So in this case, we're doing both. We also work with children on issues, for example, on child and adult protection. We work a lot with people with disabilities and indigenous people and older persons. For this occasion, it's really a great pleasure to bring here some of the efforts of this very fruitful partnership with EIF, what we have been doing the last 3 years under this project called Tech as a Driver of Women Economic Opportunity in LDCs. And I specifically was talking with Peter when we prepared last week for this meeting. We discussed what photo we wanted to share. And as you can see, we wanted to share the human side of this project, the women we're benefiting. And I'm going to share 3 stories, if I can, very quickly, of who are being benefited at the end, and what is going on with these young women and the efforts that they're making. So for those, the ambassador she has mentioned very briefly a bit about the project, but for those who are not familiar, its main aim is to benefit working age women by giving them economic opportunities and enabling to access and use ICTs productively to contribute to close the gender digital divide, which continues to be a very big problem around the world. And we're doing it in 3 countries, Burundi, Ethiopia, and Haiti. And this is a joint project also as part of the Equals Global Partnership and the EIF Empower Women Power Trade Initiative. And this project, as Ambassador already mentioned, has 2 areas. A first area is at policy level. So we're helping governments to increase their capacity as how to mainstream gender in digital policies and how to expand also the horizons of women entrepreneurs. And then we're training women at the ground level, at the community level, to see how they can be entrepreneurs, how they can be business leaders in very specific trades, in the trade of textiles and apparel and the coffee and tea value chains. So very, very specific. So what are some of the challenges? And the first biggest challenge in the digital gender gap is that most of you here, I bet everybody here has probably a computer, a phone, a laptop, at least 2 to 3 devices. And we complain when we don't have 5G. And we are only 4G, for example, and the video downloaded not in 3 seconds, but it had to download in 10 seconds. We're spoiled for those who are here. We're very spoiled. Imagine a world if I take all of your devices away right now, everything. Maybe you'll be a bit more bored. But all of your devices, literally all of yours, we wouldn't be able to talk with the gentleman from Lesotho. And so connectivity is crucial. And it's crucial around the world. And the pandemic has highlighted that it's not only a luxury anymore. It's a need for everything, for education. Millions of young girls, young children around the world have fallen behind in their education just because they were not connected, because they couldn't go to school. So imagine that if we say we have a bit over half of the world population connected, but in LDCs, we have only 1 out of 7 women using the internet. So that means 6 women in LDC countries have never, ever been able to use the internet or access. Can you imagine never, ever be able to use the internet, any of you? So, and in the case, even compared against men, which is 1 out of 4. So we estimate in 2022, based on ITU statistics and numbers, 407 million people around in least developing countries were using less than, let's say, are accounting only about 36% of the population compared to 66%. So when 66% of the world population is connected, 33% is in LDCs, And from those 33%, even less women. So just imagine those challenges. But at the same time, within this scenario, we have some positive news where the young are leading the way in the use of internet. And even in, let's say, almost half of young people around the world, 15 to 24 years old, in LDCs are online. And it's almost the rate doubled from 2019. So this is why also this project with EIFs can count with a very high level participation of young women. And we were for us, this was very important. So I really want to emphasize on the importance, especially for youth, that the relative gap between LDCs and the world average, even though it's smaller for young people, there's still a lot of issues. Young people are worried about the workforce, how to be connected, how to be technology savvy, and also what are their job opportunities, what are their education opportunities. So what are the barriers right now that ITU thinks that hold girls and women back, especially in LDCs? First of all, lack of affordable access to both infrastructure, so they cannot get connected. And if there is connectivity, they cannot buy the mobile phone, the smartphone. They can't afford it. Second, lack of digital skills, even basic digital skills. As I said, 1 out of 7 women in LDC countries have access to internet. The rest don't. So they have never touched the phone. They never have touched the laptop. Lack of relevant and accessible content. Concerns about online safety, which that's a subject I was going to ask my neighbor panelist on how that issue is important. Cybersecurity. Of course, poverty, gender discrimination, entrenched stereotypes, cultural norms, and very important, a lack of visible role models. So the gender-friendly digital policies we create today will definitely increase women's engagement and participation in the digital economy in the future. Policies that are linked to develop digital literacy, facilitate web-based female entrepreneurship, and empowering women financially through innovative digital financial tools and e-governance can also open a wide range of opportunities for women. So this project, so what has been the response? Was designed as a project model, and I hope this is the first of many collaborations that we can continue to respond to these challenges and how we can reduce the digital gender gap in at least these 3 countries, Haiti, Burundi, by using Burundi and Ethiopia, by using technology to drive women's economy opportunities in the textile and apparel industries, as well as the coffee and tea value chains. And then by empowering women and girls to access the internet and acquire the skills to use digital technologies, it opens them up also to many opportunities to find work, to start businesses, to sell products to new markets, and take advantage of digital financial services. Again, there are women who have don't even have a bank account and have never accessed a bank account through financial digital services. So when women and girls are empowered through digital technologies, our data shows that their families, their communities, the multiplying effect, and their national economies benefit as well. It has been estimated that bringing an additional 600 million women and girls online could boost global GDP as much as $18 billion. So having empowered thousands of women and girls with digital skills already, ITU is working to expand to local and regional talent pools and help break down the employment and entrepreneurship barriers for these young women. We at ITU are very proud to partner with EIF. And through this partnership, we have leveraged the power of technology to drive economic advancement for women and entrepreneurs. As you mentioned, yes, our target was to cohort around 2,000 women across partner countries, and I think we are on our way to achieve that goal. And this project has made very strong progress with almost, as you say, the 2,000 women trained and 16,000 women indirectly reached through project interventions. They participate in workshop and training events, and they participate also in their awareness and knowledge was raised, and whenever the training had been useful for their work, with responses being highly positive. And in addition, the women entrepreneurs participate in different online and offline networking. And it's not only important that they were able to participate in these events, is because this generated around future business deals opportunities of over $2 million between all these women. So I'm going to go very, very now to finalize with 3 stories, because the policy making, I think, is very important. But I would like to share 3 stories of how 3 women who have benefited from this project and what has helped with them. So I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the names properly, so please apologize. please bear with me. Kunjina Tesfaye, a young project participant from Ethiopia, got the chance to put her fashion design and entrepreneurship skills to use at the New York Now Expo. She went all the way to New York. And she showed off her fashions with the help of a 3D modeling digital fashion show. We have also Shaka Landrada, young project participant in Burundi that comes from a rural family whose livelihoods depend on agriculture. And she has been taught through completing workshops on the introduction of e-commerce and computing skills, internet access online. And then finally, we have Jocelyn Nisabwe, who's CEO and director of Kijisco Coffee, and who participated with this project in Burundi, was able to interact with potential buyers and partners using her new digital and business skills acquiring through the project, and strike the potential business deal with a contract worth of $1.4 million for 10 containers to be sent to a buyer in the Middle East. So the tech sector is evolving so fast that the digital is now part of everything we do. Digital ready is the new normal. Digital is also our key to achieve the SDGs, and gender equality is not just one of these 17 SDGs. It is also a vital and essential component to achieve the rest. So we need to work together, harness and the power of partnerships like the one we've done here, and pull out all the stops so that we can ensure that women are inspired and empowered to take place as equal leaders in the global digital transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Paul. It has been very inspiring to hear from you, first of all, why we need digital inclusive societies for everyone. So connectivity is crucial. And also hear about some of the challenges that might leave women and girls behind, and in particular the stories of the women who have benefited from your partnership with EIF. Thank you very much. I'd like to now turn to our final speaker, Ms. Dorothy Tuma from the East Africa Women in Business Platform, EAWIBP. I believe this project aims at increasing the participation of over 7,000 farmers, predominantly women, in the shea butter value chains of Uganda and South Sudan, resulting in improved product quality, new markets, increased exports, increased prices and foreign exchange earnings, and increased participants' incomes. So, Ms. Tuma, thank you so much for joining us virtually today. Could you please share with us how your project with the EIF has brought together women's inclusivity issues alongside environmental issues? What are the gains to trade? And what do you see as the key lessons learned? You have the floor, Ms. Tuma.
Thank you very much, the moderator. And good afternoon, everybody, all protocol observed. So this particular project is a regional project, and it covers northern Uganda and South Sudan. It's implemented by the East African Women in Business Platform, which is based in Tanzania. So we've got 3 countries there working together to push this through with the support of EIF. The project is called Generating Increased Pricing and New Markets for Women Engaged in the Shea Butter Value Chains of South Sudan and Uganda. And it was addressing a specific development issue around our shea butter value chain being underdeveloped in spite of the product's superior quality and associated demand. So through this project, we've been able to begin addressing the question of how do you sort of drive or promote economic development, women's economic empowerment in areas which have been previously affected by civil unrest. In the 2000s, northern Uganda experienced quite a bit of civil unrest, and a large number of people in northern Uganda actually ended up living in internally displaced people's camps and are returnees from that kind of difficult situation. So when we talk about inclusivity, I think here we also think about the invisible, shall I say, the invisible marks that having been living in post-conflict areas creates. This project is not addressing those, but we are addressing the economic issues. And as we actually, during the course of the project, we happened to lose 3 of our community trainers in South Sudan due to the unrest, just the skirmishes that were going on at the time. They were not doing project work at the time when they lost their lives, but because of the insecurity in the area. So we're still talking about, geographies where things may not be quite that stable yet. But nevertheless, onto the economic things that we're talking about through this project. It's a $450,000 grant that we received from EIF. And by helping the women, and I say women because this is largely, I will say, a woman-dominated value chain in terms of the women collect the nuts. They're called farmers, but they actually don't grow shea trees. They collect nuts off the ground. This is a natural resource. The nuts fall naturally off the tree, and they're collected from the ground, which is women's work. So the women do that. The women process the nuts into shea butter. But whenever there's economic pressure on a family, families will tend to sell off shea trees to the charcoal industry. And of course, that has environmental repercussions. And, it's the men who have the authority to sell the trees. So you've got that dynamic as well at play in this particular value chain. So through the formation, through training on how to form cooperatives, the benefits of forming cooperatives, collective bargaining, collective marketing, how to lead and grow their cooperatives. Through this project, the participants have realized in forming cooperatives that they now are able to enjoy the benefits of collective savings and also the ability to borrow money from the cooperatives that they have formed. The cooperatives are shea collectors cooperatives, or actually it covers collectors, producers, processors. And through these cooperatives, they've been able to realize savings, obtain loans, which help them with their everyday activities. So being able to put children through school, being able to meet their household needs, that's one clear gain that has come out of this project. Also, because of the formation of cooperatives, the women on the ground who perhaps did not have a voice before in terms of getting local leaders to listen to what they had to say, now are developing that convening power. So as a result of the cooperatives, one of the large cooperatives that has formed under this project now has the convening power to bring together local government officials to hold public-private dialogues through which they can showcase and also draw public attention to the issues affecting their value chain. So we're very excited about one of the public-private dialogues that should be taking place before the end of this month, in which one of the expected outputs is for local government to commit to including shea tree conservation on their annual budget, as part of their annual budget. So, and this would be coming in through this pressure that the cooperatives are creating. So also a clear benefit. Through the training that has gone on under the project, we've been able to show show the collectors the difference between graded nuts, well-sorted graded nuts, and nuts that are not well-sorted or graded. So by simply grading, participants have been able to triple their earnings from the shea nuts. So that's again a clear gain, is the tripling of earnings through the sale of graded shea nuts. Also through you'll notice on the slide we've got the lady on the left who is producing shea butter using the traditional methods. Notice the firewood, more trees that we do not want them to cut down. Also notice it's a lot of work. You can see it's a highly manual process, and the bottles in the forefront of the picture to your left is they use recycled juice and soda bottles to pack the shea butter, which of course is not going to get any kind of attention on an international market scale. But as a result of this project, one of the things that this project has done is the project is in the final stages of constructing a production unit that will take women who are processing their shea butter over firewood to actually elevating their game and being able to work through their cooperative to process their nuts in a processing facility. What that does is it increases their productivity, much more efficient. Removes the burden of using firewood also, and it also allows them to create a product that is in a cleaner environment, that is of much better quality, and therefore will fetch them higher prices on the market. So maybe by next year we'll have some results to report from the operation of the machine, but that is ongoing, and we're just looking at lifting the ladies from the picture you see on the left to the picture on the right. So that's again very exciting for us. I would say we've trained over 8,000 individuals directly under this project. And of course, that means that over 40,000 people's lives have been impacted by this simply through the counting of the members of their families and their extended families. I think I will stop there. Unless I have more time, I can mention 3 challenges.
Thank you, Bistuma. It is very interesting. I would just kindly ask maybe if you could keep the last remarks for the last round together with the panel, because our time is running out. So we'll have a little bit of a chance for the audience to interact as well. Thank you very much. It has been a very thought-provoking intervention on the challenging environment, the post-conflict environment that you are working in, and very interesting insights into the shea butter value chain, how it works, and your lessons learned from your cooperation with EIF. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard some very insightful contributions from our great speakers today, and I'm sure they have sparked questions and comments among the audience. So I'd like to open the floor, take 2 to 3 questions for the panel. Questions, comments, your own experiences. But since we are quite limited in time, you also have some sticky notes in front of you. So please feel free, if we don't get your questions please feel free to write your questions and comments on the sticky notes and include your name and contact details so that colleagues can follow up. So please, the floor is open for any thoughts, any ideas, comments, or questions to the panel. I see Bangladesh first. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I was really interested in the experience of Sudan. I had a similar experience in ready-made garment sector. In Bangladesh, we have trained the local fashion designing students, but the problem we faced is really with the linking them with market to create demand. So I want to know to the lady from Sudan, how did she link his shea butter with market? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have other questions at this point? If not, yes, I see in the back.
Yes, thank
you. Could you please introduce yourself? Yes, I cannot see that far.
I'm Gonejo. I'm the director of ECA West Africa. I think this is a very good experience we hear from our colleague from Sudan. And as you know, there is the CFTA, which is the blueprint for Africa to actually unlocking countries' endowment, natural resources. In West Africa, for instance, we have Burkina Faso, Mali, for example, who are actually doing extremely, very well, despite some shortcoming in the share butter. I want you to know, using the CFTA, ACFTA, whether they are trying to actually harness and access such market, because such market, but also the value chain, which is going on right now. So it would be great to have some insight into that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Griffin Nirongo, who has raised the hand online. And then I will give the floor to the Gambia to finish, and then we'll go back to the panel for responses. So Griffin Nirongo, please go ahead. We can't hear you. Would you mind perhaps writing your question down in the chat, and then we can read it out? And meanwhile, we can give the floor to
can you hear me
sorry,
now?
Sorry.
Can
Now
you
we
hear
can
me
hear
now?
you. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, I was saying that in Zambia, we implemented the She Trades project, which are aimed at linking women to the world market in the agriculture processing sector and also the textile sector. And through initiatives such as the digital tools, providing training, and also exposing them to international markets through trade fair participation, I think we have seen an increase in the women sales in terms of their exports. But on the other hand, on the cooperatives development project that we've had, we've also seen that there are still certain fundamental issues pertaining to issues of decision-making at the household level. So you'll find that in terms of women, members of cooperatives, in cooperatives that have both men and female, you find that the female, because of the traditional norms, tend to take a back seat, and most of the decisions are taken by men. However, through the project, I think we were able also to create an environment where the voice of women was also coming up in terms of membership, but also in terms of the number of women taking up positions in management, or the board representation was increasing in terms of women participation. But still the challenges in terms of the traditional norms continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the final question is from the Gambia. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, moderator. First of all, I want to welcome our permanent secretary, Mr. Damfa from the Gambia, for sharing the experience in the Gambia. Also appreciate the very valuable insights that the panelists have shared with us. The question is actually thinking EIF 2.0 or EIF 3.0 as it relates to the shared impacts that we have seen in our countries. And as we know, as Sylvie alluded to in her submission, the centrality of digitalization and the centrality of digital inclusivity, as well as how in today's world moving forward, digitalization will reinvigorate and accelerate the impacts that our country experiences are exhibiting. And I'm wondering, with the collaboration that is ongoing between ITU and EIF, what is in the sleeves as I adopt EIF 3.0, where digitalization will be at the heart of country programs and country activities to strengthen the efforts of SMEs and MSMEs, give them the voice with the inclusivity that you're talking about, but more importantly, how we can begin to build digital utilities for them and services that will enable them to have better access to markets and much more value-driven to strengthen the digitalization of intra-supply chains and regional supply chains to broaden the markets of the goods and services that are being provided as a catalyst of the EIF. I cannot possibly see EIF continuing in the manner that it did and succeeded without digitalization at the center as an enabler of all these country programs. And I'm wondering what the thoughts of Sylvie is on this regard, but more importantly, the country-specific examples that we've had, how do they foresee a new phase of EIF where digital is a driver that can help improve the country activities that they are doing? And lastly, where do you see digital trade and e-commerce coming into this and the capacity gaps and lack thereof in our country so that we can meaningfully have digital infrastructure and data infrastructure that can help actors and agents within the ecosystem to drive value much better? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. These are very important and rich questions that have been asked, and I think since we have quite limited time, we will have to continue the discussions after the session to address all the issues that you have raised. But I would like to now start in reverse order by asking all the panelists to take up the questions and comments that they feel are directed to them. So I will first give the floor to Ms. Tuma to respond.
Yes, thank you. And I think I'll address just the comments that were about the sheer value chain, and in terms of how do you connect people to markets. The gentleman from Zambia said something which has turned out to work for us, and the trade shows have been quite instrumental. Participants in this project have attended 3 different trade shows, one in Germany and also one in Nairobi, Kenya, one in Uganda, which are of an international nature. The one in Nairobi, Kenya, was organized under the African Union, and actually it was able to showcase the products that are available. So the participants have been making the connections informally. We would like to see these connections become more formal, because shea butter truly is a great example of what could be a very rich regional value chain. So the trade shows become so important for that showcasing and for people to meet each other. But then it also underscores the importance of the digitalization, because that allows people to meet each other without having to travel necessarily from one country to the next. So I think that's those are my responses to the questions that were addressed.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tuma. Next, I give the floor to Ms. Paul to respond.
Thank you very much, and I thank the ambassador of the Gambia for his comments. I think very, very well noted. We're in the process of finalizing the current project, and definitely we will be reflecting and hopefully in close collaboration with EIF. And I like your references to do a 2.0 or 3.0 version of future projects, and I fully agree. I think now any project to be able to function and to be able to be implemented and have the impact that we need, digitalization is a must. But of course, as I also mentioned earlier, especially in LDC countries, it starts also from the basics, from first having the infrastructure and to be able to have the connectivity and the proper connectivity to be able to benefit from e-commerce and to have digital entrepreneurs and so on. So, and also the basic digital skills, and ITU is making many efforts where we are trying across the world to support countries with their national strategies and their policies to be able to improve their infrastructure and also develop the digital skills and offer the digital skills needed, from very basic digital skills to intermediate digital skills for the whole population. And I want to apologize because I forgot to comment very quickly, the ambassador, 1 minute on the work that we're doing for persons with disabilities. And that's also key for us, that we are helping and supporting policymakers, that all issues related to the work that we do on persons with disabilities, including them, that the infrastructure, the devices, that all the things are being produced in an accessible manner, are also very important within this project and any effort that we make. And we look for continuous collaborations on issues related to persons with disabilities. We are very keen on helping implement the UN disability strategy. We collaborate with organizations, just for example, ILO, on persons with disabilities. So for that, we would be happy to continue to incorporate, and as I said, to leave nobody behind. So open to, of course, further discussions with EIF on how we can continue to collaborate and how we can work and incorporate everything related to digital in the work that we both are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Lepati online to respond.
Madam Moderator, can you come up with your question?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, what was the question, please?
We had a number of questions touching, among other issues, how digitalization should be key in the future cooperation with EIF, as well as questions on link to market in the shea butter value chain, and how can the AFC FTA be included and benefited from. So we had a number of questions that you can feel free to choose from if you'd like. If not, just the closing words.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I think digitalization is key in this modern era. So I think it would really help to promote trade, unlike in the past whereby trade was done physically. So digitalization, I think it is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much for responding. Next, I give the floor to Mr. Duval.
Thank you. So I really like the talk about digitalization. But I just wanted to flag one thing, because I focused on trade digitalization and paperless trade and things. But actually, I mean, obviously the e-commerce part, right, is also very important. And in fact, one project I didn't mention with EIF that we've implemented in South Asia is an e-commerce capacity building for women-led MSMEs in South Asia. I think we trained about 2,500 women in different South Asian LDCs. And so I think all this is very complementary, right? You need to digitalize the entire value chain, right? And then so at ESCAP, we tend to focus on the digitalization of the government to government processes, right? But I think the business to business processes also need to be taken into account, all the commercial aspects, and there's a lot of capacity building to be done in those things, in those areas. So public-private sector partnerships and collaboration in that context is also extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you for that additional point. And last but not least, I would like to give the floor to Permanent Secretary Dampfa to give your response.
Yes, I think I also want to talk about digitalization and how it has been very helpful in supporting the MSMEs in accessing market. We have had a very good experience this year with our project called Jagolante, that's able to link the women to the market. In fact, this year they were able to sell about 2,400 metric tons of onion, that they produce. And the marketing has been very difficult in the past, but with digitalization, because we created a digital platform that they can be able to puts their product on the platform, and the buyers on the other side are able to access, and also the logistic team were also able to signal the availability of transport, to be able to move the goods from where they are produced, to where they are needed most. I think this has been very useful and has been a very good experience. Then that shows that the digitalization is the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary. So apologies for going a few minutes over time. This has been such a rich discussion that I hope it has been useful to participants. And clearly this 1 hour and 50 minutes is a too short time to explore these important themes. Each one of them could have benefited a session of its own. I won't attempt to summarize the discussion, but I think we've heard very interesting accounts of experiences working with EIF and what is needed going forward. Digitalization has been highlighted in particular as absolutely essential issue to address for the future. So I would like to thank you all, first of all the wonderful panelists for participating and your sharing your thoughts and ideas. And of course, also to the audience, all the participants for your attention and engagement. So thank you all. I'd like to close this session and give the floor to our facilitator, Mr. Addy, over there.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador, and to our distinguished panelists. We want to say thank you for your insightful messages. And digitalization is critical. And I always like to give a practical example. One simple thing we did at the Ministry of Trade in Liberia was to publish the picture, the photograph of every single field inspector, because that was one of the complaints we got from the businesses, that field inspectors randomly were showing up and finding them, and created a whole commercial enterprise. By making that simple information available, that if somebody showed up to inspect my business to make sure I was in compliance with whatever the regulation was, I could simply just pull up their picture. It became a game changer. Now, a lot of field inspectors, they didn't like it because it sort of put them out of business, but that contributed to a huge impact on our ability to generate revenue. And so digitalization is also critical when it comes to domestic revenue generation, which is one of the huge gap when you talk about sustainability and how you fund projects that lead to sustainability. Single window takes out, it creates a fair game. So if a small importer and a big importer are bringing things into the country, the big importers have everybody at the port on their payroll. And so it's very hard to compete with them. When you make everything available, well, it becomes a game changer and you can have more participation. So it's very, very important. Thank you all for this insightful session. I think there will be more discussions after this.